All right, good morning. Welcome to the saw shop. What we got today is we're been asked to do another project on one of these Husqvarna 350s that I port. They've been turning out really well. Customers are really liking them. So one of the guys reached out, wanted me to build another one, and I buy a lot of my parts from different places, but one of the places I really like to buy from down in, which is not too far from us, is down in Daytona. It's called H&L Supplier, HL Pro Parts. And they had these Warhawk replacement cylinder kits on sale, on clearance, or money saver days, something like that. So I wanted to, so I picked a couple up. It's they are actually the 44.3 conversion kit or cylinder heads from the 346XP. And let me crack this open and we can look at it. The ring kind of comes like a cable ring. I don't know if it is or not, but the ring comes in this little plastic deal here. That's nice. Comes with two different sets of sear clips. You got ones with the little tabs on them and ones without the tabs, depending on what you want to use. I tend to go without the tabs because they seem to stay in there a little bit easier, but the ones with the tabs are easier to put in and take out. So I guess pick your poison. Wrist pin, it looks pretty good. And the piston doesn't, the workmanship on the piston doesn't look too bad. Good lightweight piston. Got the directional mark for exhaust. And look in this cylinder head. Man, it's a really nice cylinder head for the money. So I'll let you look in here. You see the transfers. You see the ports are really clean. Intake and exhaust. So, this cylinder head is like $40 or something for this kit. I think I bought them on clearance. It was just a little over around 30 bucks. And that's extremely nice cylinder head for the money. Whether how it holds up, I don't know, but the finish looks really good. But we're gonna port it anyway and open it up. But it really, now, I'll tell you a couple of things. If you understand these saws, then you kind of already know it. But these saws impulse through the intake, and the 346, 350 has a recess inside the cylinder here for the impulse line. Well, the 346 impulsed from the outside here. As you can see, this little impulse hole. So what I'll have to do to make the impulse line work, if you don't, it will not crank. It won't run because you're not getting the impulse. So what I'm gonna have to do is right here, let me get something to point with. Right there, do you see that? See that little hole? I'm gonna have to indent the case, the outside of the cylinder casing just a little bit with a burr to put a little groove in there. So when it creates that impulse suction. So we'll get that while we're going. But I'll get it on there, and we'll run the numbers on the timing on the exhaust and the intake to see what we need to do. I went ahead and bought a second kit for a future build, so I would lay it to the side. But that's what we're gonna be doing. We'll port it out. Then we're gonna get change this muffler out. Get a good open muffler put on there so it can breathe. It's not a bad looking saw to work with. It's got a little damage on the top up here for where it looks like at some point in time the muffler probably come loose on this saw. I noticed the saw right now is missing one of its muffler screws, so that's a telltale sign. So, but we'll get it tore into, address things like if it's got the plastic intake boot clamp, we'll get that. Probably gonna change the intake to a 357, 359 intake and upgrade the carburetor while we're at it to more of the 357, 359 style carburetor to help this cylinder head breathe once we open it up. I feel like this saw is going to be a really strong running saw when we're done. Most of them have been. The 346, it is a good closed port saw with the outside tunnel runners and transfers, and I think that thing should really breathe good, especially once we get it opened up and all. But let's go ahead and tear into it real quick, and we will see what we got going on and go from there. So let's go ahead and get into it real quick here. Looks like somebody has put a new side cover on here at some point in time. It looks like it's probably aftermarket cover, but I mean, honestly, an aftermarket cover is just fine if it's functional. You know, I mean, these clutch covers, they take a beating, and I mean, as long as it engages the brake and does its job, I have no problem with aftermarket parts on these saws. Because I mean, for what you're doing, depending on what you're doing, I mean, you got $20 versus probably 40 or 50 for an OEM one. So I mean, but yes, it is definitely brand new. Cause look at it. But it tends to look fine to me. Let's lay that over here out of the way. Let's get this whole bar and chain off of here. We'll also, as added, I will sand this bar down, and the rails look fine. So what we'll do, and the tip looks good, we'll sand that bar down. I'll refinish it. I got some husky color enamel kind of paint that's pretty hard that we'll refinish it and clear it and everything, so it'll look a lot better. And then we'll, of course, grease the sprocket. Let's lay that over there. I'll get that chain on chain grinder, and if it's salvageable, we'll reuse it. If not, we'll put another chain on here. But let's get this top cover off. See what we're dealing with under here. All right, it's already been, the clamp on it has already been upgraded, as you can see, to the metal intake clamp right there. Let me get a flash. Whoa, sorry about that. Sorry about that. You gotta be careful, don't be knocking the camera down. But as you can see in there, it's got the metal intake clamp on it, which is crucial on these saws, these 3 Series Huskies, because they were notorious about the mufflers coming loose. I'm curious to see what I'm going to see once I get in here and look at where this, especially where I'm missing this bolt. Hopefully we don't have a hole burnt in the crankcase, because if we do, that's pretty much a scrap deal, and we'll be starting with a different saw. But we'll see kind of what all we're dealing with once we get into there. Let's go and get this handle off of here. What I like to do is use one of these old parts bins right here to help keep, when I'm tearing these things apart, to keep different parts and pieces separated, because that's one of the harder things that you run into, is remembering where a lot of these screws go back, because so many of the screws are very similar in size and makeup. So, and sometimes it probably doesn't really matter, but sometimes that extra 1/4 inch of screw thread can mean the difference in it getting tight and you stripping the hole out because you don't have enough thread in there for pull. But yeah, I found out if I do this, it's easier for me when it comes to reassembly time to make sure I know what goes where. I'm just kind of limiting the possibilities, so it's easier to figure out what all goes in which area. But we got one more screw here. We'll get this handle off. And then we're gonna go ahead and get the brake off. And all right, brake this loud. Little spacer fell off my cylinder spring. Don't want to lose that. Slide that back, lay that to the side. We'll go ahead and, while we're at it, we're gonna have to put this over. If I was just gonna port this cylinder head, I'd probably leave this little spring on there because it don't really get in the way, but being we're gonna be changing it out, I'm gonna go ahead and move that. We'll go ahead and get this decomp out of there. It's the same size as the smaller side on your scrunch. We'll loosen or tighten the decomp valve on these saws. And that's something that I encourage you every once in a while, is to check this on your saws, cause decomp's one of those things people don't ever really think about, but that's one place to really lose power, is in your let's go ahead and get this out of here while we got some leverage. Is people wind up losing compression in the decomp valve, and they wonder why the saw don't run like it should anymore. Well, if you're losing just 10 to 15 pounds of compression, saw's still gonna run, but it ain't gonna be near as peppy as it once was. All right, let's get this brake handle off of here. And I'm gonna try to talk about some things over the time that I've kind of learned to look for, going through, or things that you can easily lose and you don't even know where they went and what went. Is one of them is the spring on these handles, these brake handles, because you can take it off and it'll stay there, but you at least a little bump, and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. See right here. See, it's already bulging. That thing will go gone, and you'll put it back together like, why is this handle so floppy on here? And if you don't know what you're looking for, you won't know you ever lost that spring. But go ahead and just push it and it'll pop right out of there. And that's it right there. Go ahead and get it out of there. That way you don't lose it. And I can kind of see why I think the top of the muffler, another reason that this got burnt right here, is somebody's done some some muffler work, and they bent this tab up right here. But it's they didn't. I mean, I've drilled them here before too to help open this hole up. But the problem is this needs the directional tab still has to be sending exhaust forward. It's allowing it to come up, which is then burning that little plastic on the bottom right there. And I shouldn't find no surprises in the cylinder, because I did test crank it. It does run. So I'm gonna say that this cylinder probably would be salvageable for another build at some point, to do a port on a stock 350, because this is the closed port 45. So it's not a bad cylinder at all. But I'm gonna go ahead and take that. But you see what I'm talking about right there? They kind of flipped it up so it's allowing the gases to escape out the top instead of straight forward. But I will, even though this can's a little bent in the front, I'll save this can, because what I'll probably do at some point is come back here. Well, I'll actually drill a hole in front of this thing. We'll weld a pipe in there, and it kind of, you don't really notice all that bent front once you put that pipe in there, and we'll port this out for a future build. But for this particular build here, I'm going to come back in with an actual ported muffler of some kind, and just go from there. We'll probably use one like this right here. It's a new one. I drilled a little pilot hole in it for another job I was doing, so I'll probably enlarge that. We'll probably stick like a 3/4 inch pipe or something in here coming off this side. All right, so I do see a little bit of burn here, but I do not see where it has not burnt through the case. So this case is salvageable. They were getting close to running the saw. If you look right there, it's got a pretty good burn in it, but it did not go through. So we're okay there. All right, I'm gonna lay this back over here. All right, let's get, let me get a screwdriver a second, and we'll get this carburetor up and out of here. Gotta pop the throttle linkage off, and then we'll get fuel line off and those kind of things. Let's go ahead and pull the fuel line, clamp it, because it will spray everywhere if it's under pressure. So I'm just gonna clamp fuel line. Oh, that baby's on there good. Fuel line feels good, but it's on there good too. May I just cut that off of there? I think that's what I'm gonna do. Oops, sorry. Bumped you. Alright. Make sure we back where we're supposed to be. Sorry about that. Alright, get that out of there. There should be plenty of fuel line down in the tank that I can pull just a little bit back up. I can probably reuse that because that's a good line. It just was almost seized on that carburetor. So I should have showed you that right there, but on these carbs, there's a little, let me bring you in a minute. I'm gonna show you. There's a little spring right there. Oh, little spring right there. And it actually comes down and under this little tab right here, and that's what holds it in place. So you have to pop that up, and then this will come out, and that'll allow you to get the carb back out of there. Let me get you back straight here. All right. So we got our throttles loose. Now there's two little black rubber grommets right here, so we got to put this in there, pop them up out of there on both sides, one on each side. All right, and then this is a purge valve carb, so you take them lines loose. And the way this saw works, a lot of these bubbles are different, but the way these saws work is the main fuel line goes straight to the carb. And then on the opposite side, it has a little purge line that runs off the carb to the short nipple on the purge bubble. And what it's basically do is it, instead of forcing fuel in through the purge, it's sucking fuel through the carb from the purge. And then it has another line that just comes off, wraps back around and back into the fuel tank, a return line. So, let me get that return line prized off of there. And it's got a brand new purge bubble on it as well. All right, now that's all loose. Let's get these. We get the kill switch disconnected. All right, it's off, or the one side of it. Let's get the other side out here. These are one of the things about these saws that are kind of a flaw in the kill switch design, because this one right here that actually goes in the kill switch is bad about that one. On a lot of saws, if these saws, if somebody says, well, my kill switch ain't working, 9 times out of 10, it's gonna be this little wire right here has come out of the switch. And so it's not creating the ground when you kill it. So you have to get it, you gotta put it back in its little groove and it'll kill it every time. So, all right, let's go ahead and, you can just crack the cylinder head bolts here loose and just pull all this up now at one time. But being I'm gonna keep it separate, I'm gonna go ahead and get these 2 Allen head screws out the front and get it separated off into a empty container. Keep all my carb stuff together in there. I'll wash that air filter. That's the good thing about these. A lot of these OEMs, you just throw them. I usually just throw them in some gas, let them soak for a little while, and then take them out and blow them out. And they're as good as any. They're better than any aftermarket you're gonna put on them. But that was one thing that these little air filters on these were actually really nice little air filters. So I see a couple things. So I've got we'll go ahead and get this apart so I can clean it better. Then you just come right here to the choke, take your screwdriver, stick in there, and it just pops right off the side of the carburetor. Usually it's a very simple, yeah, there you go. It just pops right off. That's a little air filter cleaner. I think dirty, but it was operational. So what we're gonna do is I'm probably not gonna rebuild it because it seemed to run just fine, but I'll probably pull the bottom off and make sure the screens are good in there. But I do notice it's still got limiter caps, so I'll get them off of there too. And that way it's a fully adjustable carburetor when we start to go back, because I know once I change the cylinder head out and we get it and pour it and get it breathing, it's gonna have to have more fuel, no doubt. So, we'll do that. All right, now it's time to, let me get this fuel line out of the way. Now it is time to get this cylinder head off of here. So, yeah, that wasn't very tight. And that's one thing I find a lot, and which I will check this one before we're finished, no doubt, because of the, I'm going to pull this purge bulb out of here for right now. But we will be taking the fuel tank off of this thing, and under the bottom, so these 350s are a clamshell design. But unlike a lot of your steel chainsaws that has the top cradle of the crank made to the cylinder head, as you see, these are flat cylinder heads, more like your commercial saws are, that just go down. So what they done is I've got a extra sitting up here of these. This is like a little riser, or it's kind of like a rod bearing cap on a car engine that comes in there and caps the crankshaft, but I think it's called a riser, crank riser or something like that. But this goes down on there, and this is where the crank runs. Well, the bolts that hold this in come in from under the bottom. And I don't know how many of these 350s I worked on over the years that some of them bolts aren't even there. They're just missing. But then sometimes they'll all be loose, and not all that's doing is it's got to be allowing air in through this seam. So we're gonna check that out. The earlier models, I'm gonna say this is gonna be a better model because it's probably gonna have fine thread bolts coming up under the bottom that locks it in. But some of these earlier models of the 3 Series saws, they use more of a coarse thread screws tight, almost like what holds on your top handle, and they're easy to back out. But let's go ahead and get this cylinder head off of here real quick. Yeah, they want none of these very tight. I mean, when I didn't even have to really break them loose, you start turning them. They were just a little snug, is it? I don't have them all quite backed out yet. All right, so let me get all these screws out of here. Piston looks good. This cylinder looks good. So what I'll do is I'll definitely keep this piston, even though it's this is a as you can see, it is a dish piston, which is what comes factory on these. This will be a good piston. I can really make good power on port jobs with this dish piston because it allows it to turn a lot more RPM. And then port this out, so you get a saw that maybe is a little less torquey, but will really turn some RPMs because compression ain't quite as high. But I know I will definitely delete this saw, this gasket. That's an easy performance addition by getting rid of this gasket. So it'll be gone. But we'll get this intake off of here. I'm gonna get the saw cleaned up because I'm gonna tear it completely on apart. Get it washed up, and then I'll bring you back and we'll have it completely tore down and kind of start talking about the process of going back together.